And now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
And welcome to the University of Logic, Cristiano's Conservatory, correcting convoluted conversation. You are here and now, folks. By the way, I have a comment to make, and this may dismay many people, and many people who are listening to this show. If you consider yourself a Republican, a Democrat, a conservative, a liberal, a progressive, a neocon, and a host of other titles of names that we pigeonhole ourselves in to identify who we are in this political spectrum of insanity, you folks are the problem.
Isn't that everybody? Or?
That's about every. Now, I say that only because we can't seem to fix our problems because we don't know where our problems emanate. Now, you notice I was very, very selective in the words that I used. I did not say you are part of the problem. You are the problem. Let's go over some of the terms. Let's take Republican. I would take two people who consider themselves diehard Republicans. You know, those type. I remember my grandfather. He voted for Republican back in the old. You know, all those
Barry
people.
Goldwater.
Yeah. I know. No, I remember. Wasn't Theodore Roosevelt? He was a Republican.
Yeah, I believe eventually he was. Yeah.
See, my grandfather voted for Theodore. Yeah, I'm with him all the way. You know, all those people. Right? And you took two of them. You say, excuse me, I'm going to ask you a question, but I'm going to put you in separate rooms. Please describe what do you mean by you are a Republican? Just 15 words or less. Now, they have to do this. No, they have to do this. No.
You want them to call?
We need somebody to call in, Joe. And do that.
Yeah, I have a bunch of clowns with me here today. I got a studio full of people. By the way, all right, wait, before that. No. Now, I have my research assistant with me, Preston Minion, who's my research assistant. He decided to come here. He couldn't get a date tonight, so that's why he's here. Jim Robinson, a real freedom fighter here in Tulsa. All right. Of course, my lovely wife, Erin, and my, for some reason, my agent is here, too. He's watching me, wants to make sure I don't get all the money, I think. That's why he's here.
Some money. What are you talking
That's
about?
right. There you go. See?
But I want you to know, seriously, guys, cut it out. Now, if you read what each person said, you would think they were from two different political parties. You do the same thing with the Democrat, same thing. People cannot even explain what they mean when they say they're Republican or Democrat. Now, the term that I love the best is progressive. Oh, I love that one. You know, it's a self-endowed compliment. It's like saying, I'm progressive. Well, who wouldn't want to be progressive? What is the opposite of progressive? Regressive. Could you imagine saying, no, I'm a regressive? No one in their right minds, I don't care who they are, what their political thoughts are, political affiliations is, don't care. Don't care their education, where they were born. No one, absolutely no one would consider themselves regressives. But progressives, how could you not be a progressive? In fact, if you're not a progressive, there is something wrong with you. This is this self-imposed, endowed, this righteousness that they give themselves. You know, of all the groups, the one that I have the most problem with are the progressives. All right, let's go to the neocons. You know, really mean people, diehard, immovable. The immovable object, you got them. They can't justify anything other than if it's in the interest of the American flag, I'm with it 100%. You know, nuke everybody, you know, anthrax everybody, it's okay, provided we do it because I'm a neocon. Every one of them have a stigma attached to them. And let me tell you something, folks, you are the problem, even if you're a regular Republican and a regular Democrat. Now, you say, well, why do I say that? Because if the Republicans, the Democrats, the progressives, the neocons, the liberals, the whatever groups, if none of them voted, none of the bums that we have in office right now, these criminals that we have in office, none of them would be in office. Now, you can't blame me. You can't blame me, folks. You know why? I don't vote. You see, that's the point. The whole point is that because we have a government that is absolutely abusive to the common man, our Declaration of Independence, in fact, Preston, look at the first part of the last paragraph, the first paragraph, the last part, of the Declaration of Independence. It says, when the government, they say that when the government becomes abusive, it's time for the common person.
Yes, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government.
Right. There is the Declaration of Independence. And if you are a Republican, a Democrat, a liberal, a neocon, a progressive liberal, I don't care what you call yourself, and you voted, you are the problem. I want that to sink in. And please, no one call me. No one call me and say, "Oh, but it's my obligation." Is there anywhere in the Constitution where it says it is the obligation of citizens to vote?
I do not see that at all.
Absolutely right. It is not in the Constitution. In the Constitution it says if you don't like what the heck is going on, it's time to dissent. Like I say in my radio program, it's time for us to be revolutionaries in thought, but dissidents in action. And until we do that, we are going to have the government, no matter what I say. I don't care if there's 100 programs like mine. I don't care if everyone takes to the streets. Nothing will change. Because as soon as it comes time to vote, the Republicans will get out there and they go, well, I want my man in. Or even better, I love this one. This proves the insanity of the United States. I vote for the lesser of two evils. How about that?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's like, the lesser of two evils. It's like, well, do you want to get shot or stabbed to death? Well, let me think about it. I'll call you back tomorrow. It's like it's a gift.
Yeah.
What demon do you want to be possessed by?
Come on, folks. I mean, folks, when are we going to start thinking for ourselves? This program really should be self-deluding. Because if people get the point, you don't have to listen to me, because what I say week after week after week, it's the same damn thing. Maybe a different way, different context, different, I use different examples. It's the same thing. Everyone should be so sick and tired of hearing from me, but they should be getting people who have not been listening to my program and get their ears here. Those are the people that need to be spoken to. And if we can cycle everyone through this program, then I hate to tell you this, Glenn Beck, you're out of business. No, seriously.
Yeah, you're
I'm serious
true,
because
yeah.
Now these guys. Now, with all due respect to Glenn Beck and Laura Ingraham and who's on this afternoon?
Snit.
No, the gal.
Monica Crowley.
Monica Crowley.
Yeah,
she's
she's
very detailed and a whole bit. Yeah, really. With all due respect to all of those guys, and Schnitt and Mark Levin and Jerry Doyle and all those guys. The point is they have a 3-hour program, and what are they going to talk for 3 hours? This? I mean, after 15 minutes, people turn. I know after 5 minutes, people turn me off. Can you imagine 3 hours of me?
Oh, my God.
I can't. You want to know something? I can't stand it. Could you imagine the people out there
All right,
listening?
let's talk about Benghazi.
Yeah, let's talk about something, something uplifting like Benghazi. But they have a 3-hour. I have a 3-hour program. They have a 3-hour program, and in that, they talk about the events of the prior day or what's going on currently, and they take the latest, and then they talk about, and they do a great job of analyzing it, of how we're screwing everything up, how what the government tells us, is not correct, how people in office are lying, how people testify, are guilty and get away with it, but yet, if my 5-year-old daughter sells lemonade, she'll get thrown in jail. I mean, this is the inequality in America. And what I don't understand is that if you know that, why bother listening? It's like saying, well, my wife cheats on me on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. I keep on telling her. She says, well, I'll try not to cheat on you on Thursday. Okay. I mean, would you do that? No, you'd say, hey, this is not working. But to say every day, to confirm and to document every day on the air how rotten these people are, how they all lie, they cheat, they steal, and they do everything for personal aggrandizement, and then we go back the next day. Why do I have to do that? And I say the same thing about my program. Once you understand that this program is about one thing, you. It's about you being an individual and totally free. No one owns you. You know, and let me give you an example. And this applies to absolutely everything. They were talking about this situation where Obama made a statement regarding the FDA approving birth control to young girls, bada bing, bada bang, bada boom, bada bang. You know, and here they are, and they're talking about, you know, whether they have the right and who she belongs to. Well, you know what the answer is? She doesn't belong to anyone. No one belongs to anyone. Now, she has parents. She should abide by her parents. She should obey her parents. And her parents, in turn, are responsible for her, but nobody owns her. I don't care what the left says, and I don't care what the right says. And once you understand that concept and can apply it to absolutely everything that is going on, you no longer have to listen to these daily programs. Now, not that I don't want you to, because they are informative, and they're very good. And let me be honest with you, these guys are a lot sharper than me. I tell you, I'm not the sharp pencil in the drawer. These guys are. Monica Crowley, I mean, you get Mark Levin. The guy's a constitutional brainstorm. I mean, the guy's unbelievable. I mean, I couldn't even hold a conversation with the guy. I admit it. I admit it. He's a hell of a lot smarter than I am. Now, I don't agree with him on everything, and I think sometimes he's a little short with people. But other than that, these guys are smart. But the point being is that if I had a program, let's say I had a program and it was about organized crime, right? And every day I talked about all the bad things organized crime did. Wouldn't eventually someone call in and say, hey, excuse me, Mr. Cristiano, you talk about organized crime, killing people every day and drugs and all this illegal stuff, stealing, you know.
Racketeering.
Racketeering. Thank you very much. All this stuff, right? When I repeat it day in and day out, they say, "What? Say it once, we know that. Goodbye." Oh, do we have time for? Let's take a break. I need some coffee. You know, I'm sorry. I'm down. All right, I'm down. I'm down on the American public. I admit it. I'm just down on the American. I've been doing this for many years, okay? Hey, listen, I'm 70 years old. You know, I can get away with almost anything. Because what could they do? Give me 30 years in jail? I'll never make it. You know what I mean? I'm going to get away easy no matter what I do, you know? I mean, unless they give me torture chamber for 30 years, 20 years or something like that. No, but seriously, I really am down. You know, I'm convinced if the government came out, if Obama stood there and said, ladies and gentlemen, he's in the White House, of course, you know, where they make the speech on the, what do they call that place in the White House?
The Rose Garden.
The Rose Garden. He's in the Rose Garden. Yeah, he needs a song, you know. And he says the government will soon claim to heal death if we only had enough money dedicated to the cause. Everyone would cheer, go crazy. And when it says, oh, he's gonna heal death. That is the mentality of the American. And if you say, well, I don't think you understand, they'll get angry with you. Now, when he gave that speech about, can you imagine him abdicating his responsibility to the FDA when they asked him about birth control to a 15-year-old kid without the parents' consent? I love this. He goes, well, according to the FDA, says it's, I mean, was that FDA, right? What organization? Was it the FDA? I'm sorry.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, it was FDA.
Yeah, it was FDA.
FTC? No, I'm sorry, I forgot which one.
I forget what
anyway, it was one of the government organizations that said it was safe. The one that does it safe for us to eat the hamburgers that we have, you know. And they said, well, they said safe, so it's he said I abide by their decision. That wasn't the question, you numbskull. That had nothing to do with whether or not it's safe or not. You know, like the girl's going to, you know, use that and then she's going to die from it. She's not going to die from it. And people accepted that. But the question that should have been asked is said, if your daughter did that, Mr. President, how would you feel? What would your response be? Oh, God, no, we wouldn't test him or his logic or his morals. Not us, no. We'll let the FDA or somebody else worry about that. Yeah, that's the federal. I think it's the drug admin. Somebody else's responsibility. I mean, what a cop! That guy should have been removed from office for that alone, for being totally incompetent and not even knowing what the heck the question was. Now, you know what? I'm not upset about that. I'll tell you what I am upset about. You want to know what I'm upset about? Anybody here want to know what I'm really upset about?
I would love to know what you're upset about.
Yeah, okay. Everyone wants to know.
Would you? Yeah.
Listen, I have a friend who is healthcare I'm not going to give the name of the position because someone can get in trouble for this. Really in big trouble, okay? Healthcare professional, right? For 30 years, about 30 years. Perfect record, no problem, no lawsuits, no insurance claims, against them because of the malpractice, nothing. Perfectly clean, clear record. Perfect for 30 years, right? And what happened? And they have to, although this person has gone to the medical schools, did all the stuff, went to school, passed all the tests, did all the internships, been in practice for 30 years with no problem, has a regular practice, well respected. But they have to be approved by a licensing organization every year in which you pay money to get your license. Now think about that. You go through all this all your life. I mean, you go through hell and creation to get where you are, whatever. But yet there's an organization that could care less about you, knows nothing about you or your practice, but you have to send them money. And they look at what you've done. You've gone to school. You've done your internship. All this other stuff. There's no lawsuits against you. All this other. You're not. You're not a criminal. And then after that, they send you a piece of paper saying that you are licensed to practice. All right? What a con game that is. All right, now, that's bad enough. This is what happened. What these people do is they send you, my friend told me, their renewal months in advance. He says, I get the renewal something like September, beginning October, And he says, I typically don't pay it that far in advance. I'm always afraid it's going to get lost somewhere. He said, so we save it. And I says, never. He said, I've never been late a day in my life. He said, what happened one year is I realized at the end of the month, at the end of the year, I still had this one outstanding. It got buried. So we called the licensing bureau, whoever it is. I won't say who it is. And they said, oh, yeah, no problem. You'll just be a few days late. Just mail it in. You've called. Bada-dum, bada-bing, bada-bang, bada-boom. Okay, all right. So we sent the money in, happy as a clam. He continues his practice, right? He gets what do you call that? An order, an injunction from practice. What do you call those things?
An injunction.
Injunction, cease and desist, or signed by an attorney. A court order. No, a court order. He got a court order signed by an attorney saying, "See, you're illegal." But all this other stuff. He says he shows. I said, I can't believe it. I said, what for? I mean, it looked like this guy was like killing people or something like that. So. He went back. They said, whatever. They said, well, your dues was late. He said, but I called you guys. They said, oh, I know, but, that's the ruling. So now he's got to he has punishment. And I'm not going to tell you what the punishment is, but it's pretty severe, right? And it's going to take him a lot of money and a lot of time. And not only that, but if he had... Anyway, I'm not going to go through but monetarily it cost him. He's got to go do all these things now. It's going to cost a lot of money and time and the whole bit. And then he's granted his license back from this bureau. What does the licensing bureau do? I mean, what do they add? They don't prove anything. They don't investigate anything. But if you don't pay your money, you're gone. It's the same thing. Let me give you another. The licensing, I love licensing. License means nothing. This is what keeps people and the poor unemployed. Right? I'm getting a haircut. Now, I got about 14 strands of hair in my head. You've seen it on the videos. I mean, all right, 12. All right, I exaggerate. All right? So I go there. And one good thing about being 70 years old and having little hair is I get a cut rate on my haircuts. I'll tell you that. I do, So I'm there. And I asked the guy, and this gal, she's cutting my hair, nice little girl, and she's got this cosmetology diploma, license,
certification.
I says, wow, you're how come you don't do hair shampoos and hairstyling like you see on TV, all this fancy stuff. She said, well, I'm licensed to do that. I said, what are you doing here? She says, oh, I always wanted to be a barber. I said, well, why'd you get a cosmetology license? She says, I have to. I said, what for? She says, it's the law that if I want to cut hair, I have to go to school for a whole year to become a cosmetologist in order to cut hair. I said, but what for? She says, well, that'll guarantee that I don't do it wrong. I said, now, wait a minute, sweetheart. Let me tell you something. No, I'm telling you, this is God's honest truth. God's honest truth. In fact, go to any barber and ask them that. Okay.
I'm sure,
now, I'm sure there's some grandfather then who have been barbers for 100 years.
Right.
But go to these places like Haircuts Now and those places. Ask them. Because I asked more than one, by the way, so I verified this. I said, well, wouldn't it make sense? What's the worst that you can do if you cut my hair? It's crooked, right? Right? And someone straightens it out. Or it looks funny for a couple of days, it grows out. I mean, of what? It's the same thing. You have to be licensed. In other words, it's a way to keep people out of work. Now, we have all of these senators, we have all of these congressmen that are whose job is, their job one is what? To protect our rights and our freedoms and make certain that the government doesn't overstep its bounds according to the articles of the Constitution. Very simple. And what do? The exact opposite. Because once these groups get together, they get, who do they get? They get their congressmen, they get their senators, and if you pay them enough money, they will approve a licensing bureau for the most inane thing. Now, a cosmopolitan license, I don't know how much it costs. I should have looked that up. Could you look that up?
Those schools are expensive.
Yeah, they're very, very expensive. So if you are a poor person, let's say you are a person. I'm going to pick a person of color. Okay, don't get mad at me. And you want to get out of this, the poverty that you're living in. And you say, well, what I can do is I can start cutting hair. Let's say you want to do that. You can't do it. You have to go. You have no money to go to the school. If you want to bake a cake, you can't bake a cake because you need a license. The licensing procedure is onerous, rather. And it keeps you out of work. It prevents you from going into business for yourself.
But they would argue it guarantees the quality.
Oh, yeah.
The quality, Joe.
That's good. Yeah, once you get this license, someone from that organization stands there while you bake a cake. It's insane. It's all money. Now, if you vote, and all these people in office, they should all come out. Every one of them should be out of office. Every one of them. I mean, with rare exception, more than 80% should be out of office. And this is what these guys are doing. Instead of ensuring that your rights are protected, they are legislating. Now, we're going to go on break soon. I want to give a question to everyone out there. During the past week, how many pieces of legislation were reversed to free us from legislation and giving us more freedom to act as we should? How many pieces of legislation were freed up? 855-866-1170. I'll bet you'll not find one piece of legislation that was done, but reams or thousands of pages of legislation were signed restricting your freedom in one way, shape, or form. We have a problem, folks. And the problem is anyone who votes. Anyone who votes. We have a break now. Can we stop now, or you got to wait?
We can go now if you'd like.
Sure. Let's go.
Let the phones ring.
Yeah.
Let the phones ring.
Yeah. Let the phone ring. It's 855-866-1170. Let me hear from you. Okay. And please tell me about any legislation that actually preserved our freedom last week. All right. Let's take a break. All right, we have a caller on the line. Let's take our caller first before we proceed. Ralph, you're on the line. Ralph from Tulsa. Thanks for calling Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFIQ. What's on your mind this evening?
Okay, Joe, I don't know of any legislation that's been repealed, but the concern I have is a couple of people, friends of mine, who have wanted to get into, say, automotive electronics or some kind of automotive work and wanted to go to a vocational school. they would, as far as I know, in this area, for one thing, the courses are expensive. The other is that they only seem to be available like in the 9 to 5 block, and I mean quite a block. You basically have to not be working, quit your job.
You can't work.
Yeah. So it's not something that you could very easily transition to, or if you had a job that wasn't on the level you wanted, you thought you could do better at this, that you could get into that without just completely giving up your job. I mean, it's like night school is not available. I guess it's not convenient for the folks who teach that to be working at night. So,
Ralph, you bring up an excellent point. Colleges have night classes, they have day classes, they have even weekend classes. But once you get something where it's codified in the system and the government is involved directly or indirectly, they don't care. They're going to get paid. Listen, you can't do anything unless you come to me first. You better find a way to do it. However, in a true free enterprise system, there would be a school opening up saying night classes only, and they would get maybe 90% of the people. They would make some really good money, and they can lower the price substantially. But you're right. You bring up an excellent point, and it can be fixed. It's not being fixed. I don't know why it's not being fixed now or why it's not in the evening class, but if it was monetarily advantageous for them to have an evening class, they would do it. And obviously it should be monetarily advantageous so people can work. I mean, if you get a young guy working at a fast food place and then works here at night and wants to be a diesel mechanic, that would be perfect. But there's a reason why it's not. I don't know. Maybe if someone can call in at 855-866-1170 and tell me. But Ralph, thanks a million for calling in. I certainly appreciate your call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, we have someone else calling in. We have another caller here. Yep, I think we do. We're screening that call. We got him. He's a good caller. We qualified him. Did we qualify him? Here we go.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
Where are you calling from?
Tulsa.
Okay. All right, Tulsa. What's your first name, please?
My name's Jeff.
Jeff. Okay, Jeff. What's on your mind?
Well, I was calling kind of what you're talking about. My daughter is actually going through the process to enroll in beauty school right now. $14,000. It's 1,500 hours, and it's all to get her so she can pass the test.
Wait, what school? What school is she going to, and for what?
It's a beauty school to cut hair.
Oh, beauty school. You said $14,000?
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I can't. I can't believe. I mean, no, I don't doubt it. What you're saying. I mean, it just stuns me. I thought it would be a few thousand. 14. My goodness, great. How many years does she have to work? Cutting hair at $10 a throw or whatever it is, and getting her cut in order to pay out $14,000.
Oh, I know, and it's just like that previous caller said. It's 5 days a week, 9 to 5.
Yeah, so the daughter, unless she wants to work nights, she probably has to study for the class.
You see, it's a way you keep the poor. There's a good way to keep the poor, and I don't know who you're enriching, but you're enriching somebody in this game. Someone's making very, very big money.
Yeah, the school.
Yeah, the schools are making it.
Huge.
Yeah.
Hey, sir, do you mind me asking how old your daughter is?
She just graduated high school.
Just high school, okay.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big debt to be taking on after high school.
Has she figured out how many years it take her to pay that off?
No, she hasn't. She hasn't thought that far. But I know we were talking to him, and they handed us a card and said, "Here's a guy at the bank you can call. He'll give you a loan."
Of course.
No,
Bank loan from the government.
Financing available.
It's to help the bank.
Well, I wonder how much they make because there's so many barbers that are open. If she just wants to cut hair, for example, she wants to be a cosmetologist, or a barber, or what? Do you know?
She wants to do the style and the color.
Oh, okay.
And all that.
They make a lot more money than the gals who
Yeah,
just cut hair, I think, because I know they there's a lot of things they do. Okay, cool. Hey, thank you very much for calling in. I appreciate you being part of my show. Thank you.
Hey, Joe, can I make a comment? I mean, I was listening to another radio program today. I was just driving around, and it's ironic that you're talking about this very thing, but it was they were interviewing people who had all these college loans. And I've mentioned to you before that academia is a bigger business than business itself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's not relegated to the universities of people getting degrees, of worthlessness anymore.
Exactly.
It's all over the place. And what that does, it really harms those people who are poor. If you have let's say a poor person, they want to bake a cake. They're really good bakers.
And they want to better themselves.
Yeah, they can bake a good cake. People want to buy it. They can't do it. They have to get permission from the Health Department, Food and Drug Administration, all these people, whoever else comes in. And then they cannot do that out of their house because of zoning laws. And zoning laws have killed this country more than any politician. So now they say, well, I want to make cakes, but you want to do it, you have to do it a half a mile down the road where the zoning allows you to do that. They say, well, I'm very poor. I can't afford to put down $20,000 or $5,000 in a place with an oven. I already have an oven. I have a Cuisinart. I have everything at home to make the cake. Cannot make the cake at home. You cannot. You must stay poor. So that person, instead of being in business, right, goes on government assistance. And who do we blame? Don't blame that person. Blame yourself for voting those people into office. I go back to that. You have to blame yourself. If you vote, you are the problem. Not Anna Mae, who wants to make the cake, who can't make the cake, who decides to go on welfare.
And nobody's called to answer your question that you had before the break.
That's right. Why? Because there is no answer to that.
There is no
answer. I can guarantee there's no answer to that.
None.
I'll bet money on it, Anyway, I even forgot we got 4 minutes to go. Okay. I want to read you something. I was reading an article by... I read this whole article. I'm always reading articles, which is bad. It warps your mind. You get like me after a while. I tell you do. I mean,
you don't watch TV?
No, well, you know what? I do. I'll tell you the stuff that I watch. When I become comatose, where I just can't absorb anymore, I work all day, I'll watch the drag races, number one.
Right.
I'll watch Storage Wars. Storage Wars.
Yeah.
I love that program. I love that program. Storage Wars. And there's another thing I watch once in a while, and I can't remember. My mind is shot. I don't remember what it was. But that's all I do. And then I just go to bed. I mean, that's all I never listen to the news. Never. You say, well, how do you keep informed? The news is not keeping you informed because the people who are broadcasting the news to you are just repeating what has been approved to be said for the public. Do you understand that? And then if you listen to that and you believe our school system and you vote, you're getting exactly what we have now. Do you understand that, folks? This is very sad. This is a revolution of the mind. Do you understand that? Here's a quote. This was from Alex de Tocqueville. He was a 19th century French philosopher and thinker. I think he died in 1849. He said he visited America. He was enchanted with America's freedom. He said the American Republic will endure until the day, now he wrote this back in 1830 or something. Listen to this. Until the day Congress discovers it can bribe the public with public money. This was a couple of 100 years ago he wrote this. The American Republic will endure until the day Congress discovers that it can bribe the public with public money, with its own money. He saw this. And what are they doing? Exactly that. Let's take our last break. And remember what your mother told you, if you have nothing nice to say nothing at all. I'm only kidding. I'd like to hear both sides, but I had to say that because it was inside. It was like, moving and fermenting inside of me. All right, Lloyd from Henrietta, you're on the line. Lloyd, you better have something damn good to say. How you doing?
No pressure.
Well, Joe, your problem is you don't know your place.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right, Lloyd. I agree with you.
See, your problem is you're reasoning as if you are a free person in this society.
I apologize.
You have to take the view as though you're a slave. Now, once you take that view, this other stuff starts to fall together. the licensing or having to jump through hoops and such. And as you was going on in the earlier part of the broadcast about voting, and you're voting for the lesser of two evils, well, I agree that it's bad as well. But once you get the view that you're a slave and you've got a choice between two different masters that day in the cotton field, one's going to beat you 3 times a day and one's only going to beat you once a day, and you know that beforehand. You take that view as you're going to get one of those two, and so you choose the one that you prefer.
Lloyd, you make perfect sense. I'll tell you this:
Boy,
when I retire from this, I'm going to pass the baton to you.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that's a good point. But I'm not a slave. You know, I do exactly what my wife tells me. No matter what, no matter what she says, I do what she tells me. But you know, you're absolutely correct. And why do you think people think that way instead of saying, "Hey, they're both bums. I'm not going to do anything"? Why do you think that's the case?
Well, I know some people that refuse to vote simply because they know both of them are, and most of the time they are. And as far as your upper level elected officials, a lot of that is rigged. And
And
since
paid.
Since I moved to Oklahoma, I have not voted in the general election for any of the presidential candidates because there was no candidate on the ballot that was preferable, and I knew both of them are controlled by the elitists. But on your lower level officials, I vote for those. And of course, in the primaries, I remain a registered voter because, like Ron Paul was on the ballot.
Right, I agree. I did the same thing. I registered Republican when I heard Ron Paul was coming to town.
So,
I did the same thing.
Yeah, I registered. Actually, when I moved to Oklahoma about 10 years ago, I registered as a libertarian, even though I had been registered as a Republican in Texas.
Right.
But then they sent me a letter about a year later and said they don't recognize the Libertarian Party. They registered me as an independent.
Right.
But then in 2008, when Ron Paul was running, I re-registered as a Republican so I could vote for him in the primaries.
You know, I must have been standing in line right with you. You know, I did the exact same thing.
It was a short line.
It's very short line, right? This other clown I'm with here right now, he says, yeah, it's a very short line. But it was, what I find enchanting is the fact that when you have people who have degrees, I mean, I'm not talking about engineering, but the PhDs, you know, who know everything in their philosophy and sociology and human garbage behavior and all this other garbage, those are the people with PhDs tend to be very progressive, you know, and consider themselves correct and won't listen to anyone because obviously they have the PhD.
And
how dare you? And it
than
seems
you.
to be prevalent. I know so many people in family, friends who have people in family that have PhDs, and they are the worst snobby ultra liberals, but they won't explain their position. They will not discuss it. You have to accept it because they have a PhD.
Yes.
Did have you been exposed to that, or Lloyd?
Oh,
have you been experienced too?
It's there. I mean, that's what a credential is for. That works in everything, you know.
Yeah.
If someone's wearing a uniform or has a badge or has a credential, they're automatically an authority, and so anything they say is pretty much accepted.
Lloyd, you think I should be wearing a badge?
That would be a good choice.
Okay. Hey, Lloyd, thanks a million for calling. I certainly appreciate you. A good break. You are a good break for me, by the way. I owe you one. And, of course, I mean, it was a very, very good call. I really appreciate your comments. And thank you for your listenership. All right, you take care. You know, he's
Spot on.
Right on. I mean, what else could you say? But if you hear that, and if you disagree with it, please call in and say, no, Joe, you're wrong. Because, listen, I'm open. Believe it or not, as adamant as I am open to discussion.
You know,
but no one wants to discuss it. They just want to give me some garbage like, well, you just don't stand, man.
I'll be the devil's advocate here, Joe, because I think a lot of people would be that are listening. And there's a lot of people listening to your show right now that just aren't calling in. But I would say that some of those people are thinking that these licenses, these credentials, all this are to protect the consumer.
Right. Right. And in order to cut hair, you have to pay. By the way, my researcher says it. Yeah, by the way, we just learned. He just looked it up. It's $17,000. Yeah, the one he looked up was $17,000. That's to cut hair. 17,000. You become indebted for the rest of, for years and years and maybe decades by the time you pay that off.
Exactly.
You stay impoverished. The government makes certain that you stay impoverished. Now, I can understand if you're doing brain surgery. You may want to make sure you got the very, very best of the surgery. You don't want to get, the guy's, he passed the surgery school, but he was kind of sloppy. He sneezed on the patient. I mean, you want to. I don't even agree with that. Having an outside agency, they've got to pass the surgical school. Well, they say, hey, this guy Bob is good. He's going to be a good surgeon. That's good enough. All right. You don't need these things. It's all political, and it keeps people poor. It keeps the poor poor, and it keeps them dependent on the government. There's no other way to look at this. And to listen to the minutia every day on all these programs about the Republicans said this and the Democrats said that. I was listening to Crowley, and she's a wonderful girl. Don't get me wrong. I love her, But the thing is she's talking about Obama and all the bad things and this and that, bada bing, bada bang, bada boom. And I said, I remember when Bush was in office, she wasn't saying this about Bush.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what bothers me. I said, wait, what's good for the goose has got to be good for the gander.
That's right.
I put everyone in fair game. Very rare do you find a politician. And let me tell you how this works. You say, Joe, I know a lot of politicians that went into office, actually got into office, and they did, and they had the best intentions in the world.
Sure.
Yeah, they did. They want to do this. They sound like me when they go in. But you know what happens to these people? Either one or two things. Either they buy into the ball game, they become corrupt, or they get out. Believe it or not, most of them get out. I mean, you have to give them credit. Most of them get out. They don't stay in. With rare exception, like a Rand Paul or a Ron Paul. Rare exception. But Ron Paul knew he wasn't going to go anywhere. He wasn't on the Appropriations Committee. He wasn't in defense. I mean, in the real big ones that really determine where the course of our government is taking, you don't get, I guess in all these small things, like whatever it was he was in. He was on one of the committees and was given very little hearing. So we do have people with good intentions running for office. They get in, but they can't beat the Leviathan. It's too big. It's too powerful. There's no way that they can win. And that's the sad part of it. I got another one. Here's James Bovard. He's a policy advisor to the Future of Freedom Foundation. This guy's great. I love reading his stuff. He says, when Congress can spend, that is, when he says spend, that is, have the right to seize and squander other people's money, citizens are nothing more than a beast of burden for political ambition. Now, please, if you disagree, you say that's ridiculous, call in. But if you know that, how could you vote? How could you say I'm proud? This is the land of the brave. Home of the brave, land of the free. Home of the. When I hear that, I want to vote. Now, back in 1840, when Alex de Tocqueville wrote his thesis, his book. And by the way, the name of his book, you really should read it. It's called Democracy in America. In 1835, he wrote that. Back then he was enamored with that. Home of the brave, land of the free. Today, you can't possibly say that. We are one of the most regulated. Even if you read Pravda newspaper, they even comment on how regulated the Americans are. Pravda, that's the Russian newspaper. Yeah, they have an edition which is translated into English, and you can read it online. You don't have to be part of the Communist Party or anything like that. And it's interesting what they write. They talk about the road that the United States is going in, that communist road, and they're saying these guys are nuts. They're telling us we're nuts for going down their road. Shouldn't you say, well, geez, maybe there's something wrong here? But not us. No. Because we're too damn comfortable. We're all too damn comfortable.
Have a little money in our pocket.
And there will be a day where people are going to say, why didn't I listen to Cristiano and his University of Logic? Because it was Cristiano's conservatory correcting convoluted conversation, and I didn't listen to him. Now, not that I'm smart. I'm just relaying to you what I have learned from the smart people. I'm just a carrier pigeon. That's all I am. Really, that's all I am, folks. You know, today we only have, how much time we have left? 1 big minute. All right. Well, next time we're going to talk about the debt clock. I really want to do that.
Oh, I want
but
you to.
In our last minute, you know, I'll give you the closing of my internet program. It says, folks, it's time for us to take back control of our government now before this bureaucratic, oversized and self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. To do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And this program is just about that. Thank you, folks, for listening to Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ. Stay well, stay tuned.